till shade is gone,
till water is gone,
into the shadow with teeth bared,
screaming defiance with the last breath,
to spit in Sightblinder's eye on the last day.
by my honor and the light.
My life will be a dagger for Sightblinder's heart.
Until the last day. To Shyle Ghul itself.
This is A Dagger for Sightblinder, a podcast focused on all things Wheel of Time, with your hosts,
Sarah Lucas
and Adam Tricola. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Dagger for Sightblinder. May you find shade this day, or some ability to walk in the air somehow.
Or run in the air.
Yeah, like trudge through the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are you, Sarah?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I don't trudge through the air. I either fly in comfort because I'm on a plane and paying a ton of money. Mm-hmm. It's actually discomfort because I don't fit well on planes because I'm huge. Or I plummet through the air because I'm not on a plane, and for some reason I'm in the air, apparently.
I thought you were going to get at like a being clumsy story or something.
You just assume that whatever story I'm going to tell you is about me being clumsy.
Well, you said plummet through the air, and I'm like, okay, something happened where you fell, like out of a tree or down a flight of stairs. Or...
Oh no, I would descend through the air gracefully. I'm sure I wouldn't be plummeting. Why would you think that?
All right, fine. So, I don't think there was any plummeting through the air in either of these episodes of Miss Marvel.
Yeah, I guess not. No, I guess that mostly she's just good. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember any.
Yeah. So do you want to do it like we did last time? So let's see. Well, do we have any like news? Do we have any like preamble stuff before we just jump into the episode?
I don't think. Did you watch? I guess we can get into that when we get into episode 6. Did you watch the post-credit scene?
There's just one, right?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there was just one. I only saw just one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did, I think. Oh, yeah, she shapeshifts.
Something weird happens.
Do you know what it is?
I don't know what it is. I didn't think it was a shapeshift.
Like, you think she, like, swapped out?
Yeah. We can get into it when we get to episode 6.
Okay, so guys, spoilers are allowed for everything in Ms. Marvel. We also may reference other things in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that's out. I think for the most part, I won't be referencing anything from the Multiverse of Madness or Thor: Love and Thunder because I haven't seen either of those yet.
Right. I haven't seen Thor: Love and Thunder either yet.
Okay.
So
yeah, we won't be referencing those. Otherwise, other things are fair game, and we might be referencing Wheel of Time up to book 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so we are going to go over episode 5 and 6. So it's the last 2 episodes of the season. I don't actually know off the top of my head if there's supposed to be a season 2.
They did. They said that actually. It said like they'll return in. It's not going to be Miss Marvel though. It's going to be, what was it, like the Marvel family or something like that. The Marvels.
I wasn't sure if that was going to be a show, like a different show or a movie or.
Oh sure. Okay.
What the deal was.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't assume. My thought was we're going to see another show. Right.
Okay, that's fair.
It's going to be called The Marvels, though.
Right. So it's not a second season. It's just it's either a new show or a movie.
Yeah, or like a comic book. And it's just being grossly misleading. Yep.
Okay, so what... so we've got episode 5. So at the end of episode 4, she
teleports.
Yeah, she does something weird happens with her bangle, and she's so in the past, she's at this partition in India. So then
Mhm.
episode 5 starts.
You want to do it like we did last time? You can recap one episode and I can recap one, and then we can
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah. So, okay. So,
Okay.
this pretty much this whole episode, almost entirely, I don't know the actual duration of how much, like, of the runtime was this, but to me, it felt like a solid 2/3 of this was in the
Yeah, like
past.
like I would say easily like 2 minutes or more.
So, a
Just
lot
wasting
of it,
time.
a lot
I
of
can
it
I
is.
can I can hear how annoyed you are.
Oh man, a lot of it is the backstory of Aisha, her great grandmother, and like how her story not even necessarily how her story started, but how she met her husband, which would have been Kamala's great grandfather, and it is a lot of backstory, which I did like, and then eventually she comes out of that partition, out of the veil, and is back with everyone, like you called. And they've got
Mhm.
this veil open, which makes everybody all excited that they can close it. And turns out that they can't. It just like turns them to stone and crumbles them. So it's this whole
Yeah.
thing. And at the end of the day, Najma ends up sacrificing herself to close the portal or the veil, whatever you want to call it. And in this process, she transfers her powers to Kamran.
Mhm.
And that's we see at the end that Kamran and is with Bruno, and he has like nowhere to go to. No, he doesn't know who to go to, so he just goes to Bruno. And clearly he was followed, and that's kind of like the end of the episode. And Bruno finding out that Kamran's got power. He has powers too, which he didn't beforehand. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that's kind of it in a nutshell. Oh, and then also, of course, I completely forgot this part, but when Kamala comes out of the veil and everything is going on and she's closing it off and all this stuff, her grandmother and mother are also there. So her mom realizes that she is the light girl or something along those lines is what she says.
Mhm.
So it's kind of nice to have that little bit of an interaction. But anyway, that's kind of it in a nutshell. So, what did you really like enjoy about this episode in particular? Do you want to start with
Yeah.
what you
So,
liked or what you didn't like? Actually,
well, what do you want to do? I'll let you pick.
let's start with what you liked.
Okay. So I liked two parts. So the first part, and it's actually I'm typing it into the notes right now because it just occurred to me. I loved at the end when the various moms and daughters all like had a good bonding moment, and they all understood each other, and they're like, "Oh, I should have understood. I should like," and they all kind of apologize, and they make things as right as they can be, and I love that. I love redemption stories and or whatever you want to call them. Like I like it when people. I mean, I already talked about in previous casts where I was like I want her to get along with her mom. Like I
Yeah.
want people to get along. Like I want them to have good relationships. That's what I want to see, and they don't have them, and it's frustrating. Like stupid teenagers. So I really liked when all the when they all just like and her mom like kind of like puts her hair down, so to speak. Like she actually she like you see her like her less awful side.
Yeah, yeah, you do. You really see like the side of her. It's almost like a softer side in a way. It's
Yeah.
and less of it felt less of a parental figure also. Like it felt more of her viewing Kamala as like an adult and an equal and not
Yeah.
not like babying. I don't even want to say babying her because I don't think they really babied her, but they did treat her like a child.
Recalcitrant daughter. Yeah. Yeah, child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, like seriously, yeah, they did. So I just liked it when they started getting along. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. What was the other?
Otherwise, so I liked it when I was right about Bruno. Bruno doesn't have parents, and you thought he did, and
uh,
he's alone. And it's a little sad to find out for sure because it's like, well, I wouldn't wish that on someone, but he's a fictional character, and I was right, and Sarah was wrong, so I'm good.
okay, so that's what you enjoyed. Got it.
Yeah. It was just such a pure moment.
You you messaged me after you watched it and you're like, I was right. I was like, yeah, you were.
I know, I know. Well, what was funny was I didn't have to say anything more.
I know.
It's just funny. But hey, I'll say this though, and I hope that I can handle other times if someone rubs my face in something that I was wrong about.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that I can handle it with as much grace as you did, because you just
Oh,
laughed alongside me, and that made it more fun for me. Like like it's like being a good sport. If someone beats you in a game of
mm-hmm.
some sort, like you could ruin it for him and be like, oh, you got lucky. You're like, oh, that was rubbish. Like that was just total garbage. You like I if I hadn't played poorly, I would have just beat you, like taking the win out of their hands. Like but you can enhance their win if you're like, dude, you totally outplayed me. Like you really did a good job. Like huge props to you. Congratulations. Well done. And all it costs is words. All it costs
Yeah.
is words. And the person's like, it was cool, right? Like it's you see them like kind of glow a little bit. Like it's great. And you handled it that way here. And I hope that I can do the same in other circumstances when the tables are turned.
Right. That's fair. So now I just have to be right about something and have you be wrong.
Right, which I mean, I'm saying all this because I'm fairly confident that we just won't be in that situation. But
Okay.
I just totally undermined my whole argument there. But no, in reality though, it was just fun. I mean, it's fun to make predictions, and then if you're right or you're wrong, you can just laugh about them. In my opinion, that's what's fun about them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
Uh,
dude, my 4-year-old made some crazy predictions in Bad Batch watching Star Wars the
mhm.
other day, and he
Oh,
got all of them right. Yeah, he was like, oh, and I was like, does anyone die? And this is the final episode. He's like, only the droid will die, but the rest of it. And he was right. I was like, and he's like, yeah,
and he
it was
hadn't he hadn't
crazy.
watched it like without you,
No,
kind of thing. And
no, he predicted like 3 different things, and he was dead right about all of them
okay, has your
across 2 different episodes.
older son watched it?
No,
So it's not like he watched it and then filled him.
they didn't
Okay,
know. I didn't actually remember if the droid died or not. I wasn't sure.
man,
I was like, this is amazing. Like he's like into it. It was really cool.
I like
Anyways,
that. Anyway,
yeah, good fun making predictions though.
hmm
I always have my sons make predictions. They usually are pretty good. But yesterday was like transcendent. Anyways, so you asked me what my favorite parts were. What about
hmm
you? Episode 5.
um, I really did like the backstory that we got.
Mm-hmm.
I think it shaped everything really nicely, so we got a few more answers there. It did feel a little bit long, but I think it was necessary because there were just so many questions. And I think also it painted more of a like not necessarily a what is the bangle and what does it do kind of like history, but it painted a really nice history of family. And I think that's the overall theme that this show has been going for is like family and identity and supporting each other and all of that kind of stuff. Because that's been in every episode pretty much.
Hmm.
So I think that tied in really nicely. And I liked that a lot. So,
Yeah, I thought it was cool. So
um,
I did.
sorry.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
so I was just reading. So One of the questions, I watched this with my wife, and she was like, "Well, was this originally all like the Muslim culture and everything? Like the old comics and stuff? But like, was this because she saw that it's based on like the original comics or whatever?"
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked it up. I was like, "That's a good question. I have no idea." And it looks like it was like a Pakistan character, like hero, but
Mm-hmm.
this was Ms. Marvel was actually written into comic book ness whatever in 2014. Like it's fairly recent
Okay,
actually for comic books.
so she's newer.
Yeah, which yeah, I kind of just assume that all of this stuff is like an old, like it's from the 90s or 80s or something.
Mm-hmm.
But this was fairly recent. I mean, less than 10 years ago is pretty new in my opinion for them to be making a TV adaptation.
Yeah, yeah, that is pretty new. So
I don't know. I thought it was interesting. It
it
probably
is.
doesn't have anything to do with what you were talking about, but it just occurred to me. I wanted to mention that as well as I, it looks. It's interesting because I feel like they're diversifying their comic books a little bit,
Yeah, that
which could only be good.
absolutely. I really liked that it was. I mean, I kind of figured that it like I figured it was based off of like the comics, obviously, but then
Mm-hmm.
I figured the comics were her being um like Pakistani and that culture involved in it just because of what happens in episode 6 and stuff, and just some things there that I think they wouldn't have strayed too far from the comics on. Anyway, so yeah, I think that was I liked it overall, so we'll see.
Good.
Okay, so what did you not like about episode 5?
Okay. I guess like so normally I don't really fixate on like continuity errors as I see them, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe not even continuity, but like unrealistic things because it's a superhero show. I mean, like, of course no one is going to like the physics of it. It's like if someone was really a superhero and they just had the powers that they have, like their bodies wouldn't be able to withstand the forces that they're employing, like that.
Right.
And their power doesn't explicitly give them like stronger joints or whatever, but that's fine. Like I can just totally ignore that. That's totally fine. um and this isn't even necessarily like part of the powers. I, I felt like there were a couple things that just it didn't make a whole lot of sense. So like they had the weird like creepy chase scene in the train station,
Mm-hmm.
and the Kamal's, or not, what's his name,
Who?
Kamran's mom.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
She just stabs Aisha,
Mm-hmm.
it like in the middle of everyone. She's just like stabs her, and everyone's just like, I'll just continue walking and not looking.
And not react.
Yeah, like she just gets freaking stabbed in the like just in the middle of a huge crowd,
Mm-hmm.
and not a single person bats an eyelid. And I don't know, like I feel like people might not have cared about Aisha. They might have been like, oh shoot, like I don't want to be around this. But if there was someone being stabbed near me, even if I hated that person and wanted them to die, I was looking forward to it for some awful reason, I would still be like, I don't want to be near this. Like, I don't want to be like, I would be scrambling away. I'd be reacting in some way if I,
Right.
like, but everyone is just like, I'll just continue placidly walking by to do, and it's like intentionally smashed together, and it like no one noticed it. It just seemed real dumb. Like, just totally took me out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then okay, so that then you see how she's just like murders her good friend in cold blood,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then she goes, we flash forward to the few, and like she's like, oh, I'm gonna go through the veil, I'm gonna, and then she's like, I can do it, I can make sure it happens. And Kamala, who doesn't know crap, she doesn't know anything, she's just like some weird teenager who has access to some powers. She's like, don't do it. She's like giving her advice, and she's like, you still have your son. And she's like, oh, I do have my son, but I left him. And then she sacrifices herself for her son, who she had already abandoned to
Mm-hmm.
prison and
Mm-hmm.
possible death and interrogation and all that stuff. Who she just like kind of looked at him for a couple seconds, and she's like, deuces, like just leaves. She stabs people in cold blood and behind them, like she's murdered tons of people. And yet she's just like, oh, I do have my son. I'm just gonna give my life up and just like send my life force to my son.
Mm-hmm.
Like this selfless act that they've shown zero evidence of her being capable of making any kind of move that is not completely self-centered in some way. Like, and then she just sacrifices herself for her son for some reason. Like she does. I'm like, why does she even have a son?
That's
So
so. This is something that I wonder, because I obviously haven't read the comics, so I don't have all the backstory here. But I wonder if this is more flushed out in the comics, and this is something that they just had to kind of piece in because it's a very like strong storyline or whatever, or main arc in the comics, whatever you want to call it. But then they had to cut out all of this important detail that would feed into all of this information. Like they're scrapping why she would all of a sudden do this, or
yeah, well, that would be nice to have any explanation, because we don't have one.
right. And
She's just like, I'm suddenly selfless. I'm gonna kill myself. I've been around for who knows how many hundreds of years,
mhm.
and I'm willing to genocide an entire planet just so I can go back home. Oh, I'm gonna actually sacrifice myself for the person I've already shown that I don't care about and abandoned already.
Well, and I feel like that's the downside of having a mini series, basically, because it's only 6 episodes and there's not
Sure.
enough time for us to get all of this information that would actually, like, it feels out of character for her from what we've been shown of how like ruthless she is.
Hmm.
It feels out of character.
Yeah, I it totally took me out. I was like, what? Like, it's not that I have anything against her son like getting powers or whatever. Like, he's fine. I just didn't believe her. I,
Right.
I thought I was like, is this just like some way? Is she like Horcruxing herself or something? Like, like I
Mm-hmm.
I thought there can't this can't be a purely selfless act, but it turns out it was, and it made no sense. And whereas I will be fine with the physics of things being mostly almost entirely ignored.
Mm-hmm.
I want characters to act consistently in a story, like,
Which is fair.
and they can be a little bit different from time to time. And watching character development is even more awesome. Like Kamala's mom went
Yeah.
from awful to awesome. Like, and in a very believable arc for me.
Right.
It was very believable. Cameron's mom was like, I'm nice. No, I'm actually evil. That was believable. And then she's like, I'm evil. I'm evil. I'm so evil. I've been evil. I love my son. Have some powers, son. I'm dead.
Yeah. That is pretty much exactly it.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense. So, anyways, what was your least favorite part?
Um, I think because it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because I really liked that we got the backstory of Aisha and everything.
Hmm.
But because we got so much of it, there was not a lot of Kamala, and she really kind of like fell to the background in this episode for me. Like it
Hmm.
wasn't necessarily about her, which is disappointing in a series that is called Miss Marvel and she is Miss Marvel. Like I kind
Fair
of
enough.
wanted her to be more at the forefront. I also don't love time travel. Like this whole it just is played with in this really, it's one of those things where it's really weird to play with it and
Hmm.
to send her into this partition, and then she is the one that guides Sana to her dad, to Kamala's great grandfather with her abilities. and she like realizes like, oh, it was me, and it's like, but then you're in this weird loop because it
Yep,
couldn't
it's an
have.
endless loop.
It's
Yep.
it's it just doesn't work time travel wise. So that pulled me out of it because I was like, well, that doesn't work. Like you can't have it happen that way. So
Hmm.
which means she either altered the past somehow by being there, or and having her do it instead of maybe Aisha did it before. Who knows? But either way, like it just doesn't.
Well, yeah,
It, it,
that
it
would have.
makes me spiral because I'm like, well, what happened? Did you alter what happened,
Yeah, you're right.
or was it you the whole time? In which case, we're in an endless loop.
Well, she can't. She can't because that was in the future. Like that would have been an alternate like spike of the like that would have
Right.
created a different line like timeline or whatever
Mm-hmm.
like that. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't make much sense. I didn't really think that much of it because it was just kind of dumb. I was like, why does she have to be like, why couldn't her grandma just have discovered the power on her own?
Right.
The one thing I did like about that scene was she called her grandma or Ami or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
whatever she calls her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Um.
Like she called the little girl grandma. Like
Yeah.
it's just cute. You're right though. That didn't make time travel. Like why couldn't she have okay, so would you have been fine if she had just like, let's say she was just a ghost
Mm-hmm.
and she just observed the past? Like would that have been okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like she didn't actually change anything.
Yeah. She was just in like a
Yeah.
memory, basically.
Maybe she could even have talked to her grandma because her grandma had powers to see, like she could talk, but not really impact anything.
Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, like, while I liked getting this backstory, it also led me to have more questions about, like, why is Aisha and Najma, like, having this huge dispute over this bangle? Like, what exactly does it do that
Mm-hmm.
she wants it so badly? Like, so it just creates more questions that I would like
Yeah,
to have answered. And
makes sense.
maybe that is the goal, but
Yeah. Um. Okay, so Kamala wasn't in this episode that much, a
mhm.
little bit, but so let me ask you, in the Book of Boba Fett in Star Wars, like there's this
Mm,
time when it just cuts to like there's a whole episode of not him, like it's just a total episode of just a totally different character, totally different storyline, and eventually
mhm.
those storylines kind of mesh. But did that mess with you? Did you hate that as well? Because the story is literally called the Book of Boba Fett,
It is.
and it's
Um,
not it's not the book of that character.
it didn't. And like it sounds hypocritical to say that because it's the same reasoning, but I think the only reason why it didn't is because it was a character that was already established.
Oh yeah, that's
If
fine.
if that makes sense.
I was just curious. I didn't mind the flat, like I, because it informs the present story. Like it was kind of nice to have a break. Like I didn't dislike Kamala or the actor necessarily, but like I could take a little break from Kamala. I didn't like. It was like, oh my gosh, she's just so awesome. I want to watch the whole series of. I was fine with having a little break,
That's fair.
especially because it informed her. But the rest of the story. But I hear you. I don't. I think in other circumstances I might be annoyed as well.
Fair. All right. So that's pretty much episode 5 in a nutshell.
Yeah. Okay. So episode 6.
Episode 6. What
All right.
happens in the
All right.
finale?
So yeah, it's the finale, and Kamala rushes back to the states. Now she does. She's back in the states. Bruno is helping his Cameron. They've been attacked by drones and by what are they called? What's
The
the bad guy
the
group?
damage control.
Damage control. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the police people. They're good. They're government one way or another. So damage control is chasing them. Cameron has powers. It's desperate. Kamala. I did really like the scene where Kamala was like gonna big reveal that she's a superhero, and they're like, yeah, the rumor mill in our house is just too great. Like they
Yeah.
totally ruined her surprise. But yeah, so then I mean, she gets back. It's looking like, oh, it's going to be a nice home life, and then oh no, they're pulled into this crisis of Cameron and Bruno being attacked by damage control, and so they all meet up at, like, they go to the mosque for a while, and they have some funny scenes there. Then they go to the high school, the one place they can guarantee that no one's going to be because it's a Saturday, and so then they take a really long time to plan and draw a really intricate, awesome thing on the chalkboard. And while they're surrounded already by damage control, and then they enact their plan, which also takes a really long time for everything to happen. And then damage control comes in, and it's a little bit like Home Alone, where they just like get stooged every time.
It is. That's a great point.
They're like, we're grown ass men, and we're just getting made mock. We're just getting controlled by these teenagers. And we had her brothers popped in, the random TikTok girl.
Yes.
And she's like, I make content in the high school because it has good lighting. I'm like, okay, I guess that kind of makes a little bit of sense, but she's sus. And then
she's sus.
I thought she was wrong prediction here. I thought she was rotten. I thought she was a betrayer. I thought she was gonna, because she'd gotten along so well with the damage control guys and stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. I could see that. I mean, I wouldn't call fluorescent lighting in a high school good lighting, though.
Well, if she's like in the theater, she's trying to get good lighting there. And anyway, so then they had this big confrontation. Kamala and like they all have their moments of whatever. Cameron finds out that his mom is dead and goes a little bit
nuts.
Crazy. Yeah, I was gonna say ape something, but yeah, he just like goes crazy, which you can't hardly blame him for that. And they have all these powers. Kamala's running around the city with her little blue teleport pillar things, and that's about it. They have the big confrontation with the cops, and just Kamala's at the peak of her powers, and just she embiggens herself, which is a fun word.
Yes, that is a fun word. I felt like, that's pretty much everything that happens. It was, to me, it felt like an episode that I feel like it had so much happening all at once, and I was also kind of like, well, where are you going next? It kind of felt like it just kept going. Like they were like, no, we can't stop now. Like we gotta drag it on even longer and have this confrontation go on for even longer.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. So, what was your favorite moment?
Actually,
let's do least favorite this time.
Least favorite
moment. Yeah.
Okay, so I think my least favorite, and just because it was more frustrating for me because it's the end, it's the finale. Like we're at it's end game here, no pun intended. And it
wasn't a pun.
End game, like Avengers Endgame.
Was that a pun? Okay.
Anyway, so the thing that irritated me was the back and forth that I felt watching it. Okay. Between trying to figure out if Cameron was all of a sudden going to be the bad guy because he was going nuts, or it was the damage control agents that were the bad guy because they were hunting them, and like Cameron and Kamala. And it's like, well, who is the bad guy? And to me, it was frustrating because we're at this point now, halfway through episode 6, and I should know who the bad guy is by now. Like 6 episodes in, I should be able to be like, okay, this is the antagonist here. And it felt like a little bit with Cameron that they were trying to throw in another one, and I don't know, it made me feel like I was more trying to follow what was happening, but also trying to figure out who I was supposed to be rooting for out of them.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of weird. Like you have okay, most the most narratives, that have like a really satisfying ending. Like all the main characters end up around in the same area,
Mm-hmm.
and they all have different parts to play in the final conflict, whatever that conflict may be. It doesn't have to be like actually like fighting, but in this case, it was like the main focus of the bad guys uh went from like the parents were the bad guys in the first one, like just
Right.
being, and then it went to the whatever, the clandestines,
Mm-hmm.
the for quite a few episodes, and then like the final, like the big confrontation between them happened over the course of 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were just taken care of, and then we had another confrontation. It was like they kind of almost just fabricated some bad guys just so that could shove characters into a stressful situation so we could see them all interact. And yeah.
Yeah, it felt distracting,
Yeah.
which was unfortunate.
It was.
Like
It felt discombobulated, like dis. Whatever. Go ahead.
I still don't know after watching it if
Mm-hmm.
I should like Kamran. Like I still don't know. Like, are you gonna be a decent person or are you going to break and be bad?
Yeah, I think he's gonna be evil. Is what I think.
I mean, fair.
That's my
So,
prediction. But maybe not though. Like he seemed to listen to reason actually.
so, but anyway,
But
what
well,
did?
he's you're right though. I'm sorry. Can I just
Yeah, yeah,
let
yeah.
me finish this thought? Because okay, so I did have this thought. I was like, okay, so it seems like he's just like destined to be evil now. Like he inherited his mom's power.
Mm-hmm.
He's the same group. He's pissed off because they killed like his all of his people are dead. He's just pissed off. He's gonna find the veil. He's gonna kill all humankind to get there. Whatever. He doesn't care. But then it occurred to me, he's not just an unreasonable person. In fact, he went through like it must. He showed a tremendous amount of character in warning Kamala that his mom was going to, like, he basically betrayed his mom
Right.
and his family, like the people who grew up with him, raised him, everything, trained him, and he not only did he just like sell them out to people who are basically strangers, and I'm sure that some of that has to do with attraction to Kamala and all that, but I don't think there would have ever been a time in my teenage years where I would have betrayed my family for any girl for any reason, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unless it was like ridiculously strong. Like I found out my parents had like killed, like murdered people or something awful like that. Like I would have. So he's betraying that, and not only did he just like rat them out, he also physically fought with them.
Right.
Like that shows a high degree of personal character there. And so for him to just turn bad guy just abruptly, like I can understand him like being angry and lashing out at
Mm-hmm.
whoever, but like that was the realization I had like halfway through, was maybe he isn't actually a bad guy. Like
Kind of good.
maybe he's complex.
Maybe. Possible.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry.
Um, no, no, you're good. I was gonna ask you what you thought your least favorite part of the episode was.
Least favorite. Let me look at my notes. It will tell me. Yeah. So I'm apparently today I'm just more focused on just like inaccuracies and stuff. So okay, I told you before, I don't care about like if superpowers are involved, then mostly I just ignore the physics of it. I have to say, Kamala is like literally running across town. Like I'm she doesn't seem like she's someone like she's not high on physical fitness. I'm not saying that she's like super fat and overweight. I'm not trying to shame her at all. She doesn't seem like they never established her as like a track cross country
Right.
runner. At like they've kind of underlined or underscored how like like uncomfortable she is with doing all the physical stuff that a superhero might have to do. And so when she takes off, she's like, I'm gonna run. Like she gets her outfit, her like leather outfit that probably doesn't breathe that well, and she starts running through the air, which is fine. Her powers, she's developed her powers, but she runs through the air, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it's uphill because she's trying to like climb in altitude so she doesn't have to deal with traffic and stuff. She runs all the way to wherever Bruno and Cameron are, but they took the train. They took all sorts like, and she's not out of breath.
Mm-hmm.
She's nothing. She's ready to fight.
She's good.
She runs across the town. She runs, not walks, not hikes, not traverses. Like she doesn't just like, oh hey look, like there's like this ferry boat I could take halfway there. Like she doesn't like get on a horse and ride it halfway. Like she doesn't teleport. She literally runs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, really? You have to, you can run now? That's not part of, that's not how the bracelet works. That's not how the force works.
Well, it is a good point because in a lot of other like superheroes, we see them training or we learn what it is in their background that lets them do this. So like you see Captain America gets the serum, and like Black Widow was a trained like assassin spy, and
Right.
like you have all
Yeah.
of this even Captain Marvel, like you see in her story why she can do the
Mm-hmm.
things she can. So it is a good point because it's not something that was shown.
Right. Well, like if it was Captain America for some reason who was able to do that, like I would have. I'm like, yeah, he can run for 6 miles and then fight at the end of it, and that's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Have you ever done like a bag minute where you're just like wailing on like a punching bag for a minute?
No, but I've done ropes, and it's pretty much the same thing, I'm guessing.
Well, so like you're like, okay, this is cool. I'm just gonna be punching this thing a lot, and at the
Yeah.
end of a 1 minute, you're just like you're like barely tapping it because it's just
Yeah. It's the
like
same idea. You like are in a squat position and you have these two gigantic ropes and you're smacking
Oh,
them.
okay, yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
like you run out of energy, like you. And I could be fine with her having extended fight scenes and not being out of breath. That is okay. She has her powers and it's more cool to see it. But like physically jogging across the town,
mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was like,
Well, and we do see like
I don't see that.
Captain America fights himself when they time travel in Endgame. And when he has that line, he's like, I could do this all day. And you
Yeah.
see him being like, yeah, like he's
He's like,
already like,
yeah,
yeah, I know. Like,
yeah, I know, buddy. Yeah.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
so you can kind of, they've already had that precedent set where they do get tired and are like, okay, like this is